Truth, Money, and Freedom podcast.
Okay. Welcome to Truth, Money, and Freedom. Today we're actually in the Missouri Senate building, the Capitol building, and we're interviewing Aaron Dorr with the Missouri Firearms Coalition. Here's Aaron right here. I'll let him explain who he is and what he does for the people of Missouri. Thank you, Aaron.
Well, thanks a lot for the time. I mean, the Missouri Firearms Coalition is a grassroots-based lobby presence in Jeff City. We don't have a $1,000 a day high-priced lobbyist working the Capitol. We focus on getting the information to gun owners across the state and getting them the tools that they need to advocate for their gun rights themselves. And we're not part of the normal lobby crowd where it's access based. It's you're trying to be nice. You're begging. You're pleading. Our methodology is very simple. Lawmakers work for the gun owners and the citizens and the taxpayers of Missouri, and they like to forget that. And it's a beautiful building. It's very austere. It can be easy to remember that you, as a lawmaker, are an employee for your constituents, and we're here to remind them of that. And they don't always care for it, but that's how the game is played. They can do their job, they can pass the bills that we ask them to pass, or they're not, but then they can be fired also, and that's our message here in Jeff City.
Okay, so today I'd like to ask you a few questions. First off, about the Missouri Firearms Coalition, what it is. Now, many Truth, Money, and Freedom members know who the GOA is and who the NRA is, but
sure,
let's talk about the Missouri Firearms Coalition today.
Sure.
So what type of organization are you, and how do you work?
Yeah, we're a 501c4 non-for-profit gun rights lobby organization, and what we do, again, is we specialize in activating our membership across the state to take action for and against legislation. And so we do that through a variety of methodologies. We'll use social media, we use direct mail, we use robocalls, we use any tool that we can to give our members the information they need to put pressure on lawmakers. It's easy sometimes to have a national organization that that's 1,000 miles away, that they fly out here one day every couple months and they knock on some doors. But our members are all in Missouri. They're all Missourians. They live here. They pay taxes here. They vote here, and they demand action. And that's our goal, is to give them the tools they need to remind those lawmakers of who they work for. So that's our structure. That's kind of how we operate. And again, it's a very different from what many organizations do as they approach their lobbying. We do not have a default position of we come to the Capitol to beg and plead and be very humble and give out information. Everybody in this building knows the truth about the Second Amendment. Everybody knows what's at stake. Everybody knows you can see Virginia. Everybody knows where we're going as a state, as a country, if we don't push back. So yeah, we give the basic information on what a bill does. But at the end of the day, in Missouri in 2020, it's a function of political willpower, not a function of votes. They have the votes to pass all these pro-gun bills. The question is, will caucus leadership get off their butt and get it done?
Gotcha. Okay, so when you're working with senators, like we're in Eric Burleson's office right now, and we'll have an interview with him in a little while. So you work with Senators Burleson and many others,
sure,
not just Burleson, and basically to protect the Second Amendment in the state of Missouri. So I have an interesting question for you. That there are some people who say we don't need to pass laws to protect the Second Amendment because it's enshrined in the Constitution.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of comments that I will sometimes get on the YouTube channel, on the BitChute channel,
yeah,
on Facebook. So what would you say to folks that say that, hey, listen, this isn't necessary. These organizations to protect the Second Amendment are not necessary because our right is our right, no matter what. We don't have to follow the laws set by the federal government to get rid of bump stocks. We don't have to follow laws to get rid of machine guns or silencers. We already have that right. We just don't acknowledge the new law. So what would you say to folks who think this, actually?
I hope you're a bachelor with no kids and no spouse, because we're going to go to prison. Look at Virginia. They're not playing games out there.
It's not a game.
They will absolutely put people in prison if they get their way. Representative Washington, right here in this building, would put you in prison for 10 years for having an AR-15 or a 30-round magazine. This is not a game. They're not playing around. And so I know we have libertarian-minded friends. I have a bunch of those that have kind of this is the law of the land. We have the Second Amendment. That's all fine and great, but no one cares. No one cares. We don't have any rights that we don't fight to protect. And so if people have a concern for their freedom, if they have any love for freedom or for that of their kids and their grandkids, got to get off the couch. It's time to fight. They're not playing around. I mean, look at Virginia. Look at Pennsylvania. These states are dumpster fires when it comes to the fight for gun rights, because too many gun owners, and I'll kind of speak, blunt here towards our own people. Too many gun owners sit home on the couch and they're not actively involved.
Agreed.
And you don't have to come to the Capitol to be involved. We have all kinds of ways that people can be involved using our incredible online advocacy program. But making their voice heard, firing off their emails, calling their lawmakers, going to some forums and reminding them who they work for, that's essential. The moment lawmakers have no concern or fear politically of gun owners, they're going to destroy our freedom. And maybe that's not going to happen today or tomorrow in Jeff City, but it will happen if gun owners take that kind of an attitude that, well, it doesn't matter. We have a Second Amendment. Tell that to Barack Obama when he tried to destroy our gun rights. They will put you in prison if they get the chance to do so.
Or even
if
the
they pass
governor of
these.
Virginia.
Exactly. They will put us in prison if they get the chance to do so.
It reminds me what Benjamin Franklin said when he was asked after they had formed the new government.
Exactly.
A young lady came up to him and said, "What kind of government did you give us? What kind of government do we have?" And he said, "Ma'am, you have a constitutional republic if you can keep it."
Exactly. And I think the message is it's and again, not to be too blunt towards our fellow gun owners, but our forefathers did their job, and our grandkids are counting on us to do our job. And if we're going to sit back when the fight is raging and do nothing and say it doesn't matter, we're just going to simply disobey, then we are disgracing the heritage of freedom that our forefathers gave us. And how dare we not take action now when our kids and grandkids are going to pay the price for what we do today in 2020 and beyond.
Yeah. And while we're here talking about the Missouri Firearms Coalition, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about what you do for the people of Missouri, how people can join you, and
Sure.
what features you have incorporated into your organization,
Sure.
as well as your website.
Sure. Well, again, our primary methodology here is to get the bills filed and get you guys the information you need to take action. And so we have two primary bills we're pushing this session. We have the gun-free zone repeal bill. And that's the one that deals with all the 17 different areas across the state where you can't carry right now. And it's kind of a joke. We have constitutional carry, one of the best pro-gun bills in the state, and in the country, I mean. We have stand your ground law, a vitally important bill, but it doesn't matter if you're at church. It doesn't matter if you're at a daycare dropping off your kid. It doesn't matter if you're voting on election day. It doesn't matter if you're in the subway system. It doesn't matter, if you're in all these places, hospitals and sports arenas, because lawmakers have decided that your Second Amendment rights stop at those locations. And so all the good policy we have doesn't help us if we're in a gun-free zone when a mass attack occurs. And so we've got HB 1638 and Senate Bill 633 that would repeal those gun-free zones in Missouri. And we take a very hard line. We believe in private property. And so if a place wants to have a gun-free zone policy, that's fine. We can not spend our money there. But for the government to implement these mandatory gun-free zones in these places, that's a problem. It's a problem, especially in a pro-gun legislature with a 2/3 majority in both chambers. That is a travesty. And the church attack in Texas 2 weeks ago. What more could you need for proof? What more could you need to tangibly see what happens? There are evil people among us, and they're not. You can't reason with them. You can't talk them down. Sometimes all that works is a bullet to the head, which is what happened to that monster in Texas. But in Missouri, if you did that, you would be breaking the law. Now, and a lot of guys will say, well, who cares? I'll carry regardless. And I understand that. But if, again, for a pro-gun majority in both chambers, to put gun owners in that default position is inexcusable. And so that's our first big push. Then we have Senate Bill 588, House Bill 1637, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, SAPA for short. SAPA would nullify all federal gun control laws. And the idea here is that, a future President Sanders, God help us, or a future President Warren, or a future President Biden, or, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, whoever the next radical AOC-style socialist would be that gets into the White House, whenever that happens, they will be trying to destroy our Second Amendment freedom. There's no question about it. This is not the same anti-gunners we dealt with, 20 years ago.